By the time she gets to Phoenix, she'll be jamming. By the time she gets to Phoenix, I'll be celebrating. By the time I get to Phoenix, she'll be rising. Hey, Tebow, you're first. First in war, last in baseball. That's how they used to describe Washington, D.C., and it's probably still true. All right. Welcome to everybody. I almost didn't come on. I'm a little annoyed with one of you in particular. I don't know if it stretches to more than you. Let me just start off with my Jennifer disclosure. I am not being compensated in any way, shape, or form by Railtown AI Technologies. Let me start also with something that I've said for years, and I guess it needs to be made clear to lugheads out there. Anything I say is not financial advice. If I answer questions, it's strategy, it's opinion, it's editorial. I cannot give anyone financial advice because we do not have a fiduciary relationship. I do not know your situation. Nothing is financial advice. Also, if you decide, which I think is completely justifiable as a decision, but if you decide to, let's go down a list I see here. If you decide to sell stocks, I'm not going to list them. If you decide to sell any of a handful of stocks that are in the over-the-counter market, and their main reason that they're on your screen is that there's a potential for a short squeeze, and you decide to sell those to buy Railtown, there is a risk over the next week, month, 6 months that one of those stocks might have some flavor of a squeeze. That is the risk. Does that make it the wrong decision to make? Not in my opinion, because it's all about likelihood, risk reward, and what can go wrong. And as far as I can tell, your participation in so-called squeeze stocks has been ended in nothing but tears. You want to keep chasing them? That's called addiction. That's called a problem. That's called, let's set up a meeting. We'll have 12 steps. And the next time you hear a story, maybe you can avoid the urge. Look, my opinion on these short squeeze stocks, if one works, how do you know you're going to make any money on it? Finger Motion was up several times. Did you ever sell? No, because you're waiting. Other people made money. The professionals made money. They are like machines, and they can do it over and over and over again. GTI was up. Did you make money? No, you didn't get out. There's a woman who every time one of these deals comes around, as far as I know, I don't speak to her, but as they run, she gets out. She doesn't hang on for the fantasy. But we don't. So did you make money on that? You were in it. Did you make any money? How about CRTD? Did you make any money? No. How about AMC? Make any money? GME, did you make any money? How about MMTLP? It went from under $1 to 12. Did you make any money? No, because we are the putzes in their game. There's at least two decisions when you invest. I mean, I would argue you should never invest in the over-the-counter market. You can't win. It turns out our sources of information on squeezes don't help us win. Maybe one of them, but by my count, this is at least the 12th or 13th shot across all these. You want to keep playing there? Go down to Short Squeezes Anonymous. Set one up in your town. The worst thing is if one worked. Then your money's hot, and then they're going to take it all away from you. I don't want to start off upset, but I couldn't sleep. I saw somebody sent me a post, and it makes me very uncomfortable with what the hell am I doing here? I assume you people, all of you, I treat you like adults. I treat you as if you have intelligence. I treat you as if you have critical thought. And then you go crying back, not thinking. You go crying back, and all it does is stir up trouble, and it shows you shouldn't be investing. Anyway, let me calm down. I apologize. I didn't know I was going to get worked up. I really didn't know I was going to get worked up. But I do want to emphasize, if you sold or are considering selling one of these stocks to buy Railtown, there's always a chance those stocks are going to go up. There is no certainty on when Railtown is going to go up. I just tell you the probabilities. And I also can tell you that Railtown, in my judgment, will go up. The question is when. And once it's up, it doesn't need Viagra or Cialis. All right, let's start with Railtown, where we are. We have 8,335,863 It didn't go up very much yesterday because a couple of people gave me numbers like I won't quote it exactly, but like Pete the Greek. I had him I had him down for much more than he actually has, and that's because I had added two entries that he had given together as if he had added to the first. In fact, it was one anyway. So there were some reductions I had to do, but basically we're at 8 million shares. If we stick together, we're going to be an important collective that can support each other, and you can replace me with somebody that doesn't lose his temper. But I really don't appreciate being put down in the category of some of these desperate bullying people. That is not where I choose to live my life. Now, I got involved in this. I was introduced to someone who I haven't said anything bad about at all, and I'm not going to start now. And these initial trades worked. And I thought, wow. And you know what? It matched my experience. But I had been away from my desk for so many years that I didn't know that things has changed. People told me, my compatriots would say, it's changed. Everything, you don't want to come back. But I think collectively, we've learned our lesson over the last 3, maybe 4 years, that the system is rigged. I offend people, so I'm not going to offend anyone. But this system is rigged for a handful of white men. Doesn't bother anybody. That doesn't bother anybody. But try to get into a college or a university program, try to get a job as a male in the United States, that bothers people. But when there's a handful of white men stealing your money, you don't care. You want to go back in and be the victim again. It's incredible. I didn't know that victimhood can be such an addiction, such a state of existence. You are the victims of these people. Stop it. Please stop it. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time. I've got to calm down. Calm down. Okay, let's go through some of the scores around the league. They're just on my list. I'm not picking on any of them. It comes from our discussions. I get 5, and then if I look deeper, I have a total of 10. GBUX is down 20 cents at 125. That's a stock that I hear they're still working on big things. So, you have to do your own due diligence, find information where you can. I don't want to say anything because I may get it wrong, but I'm hearing they're trying to do big things in GBUX. Then there's a Finger, that's down 5 cents at 188. Again, We can talk about it. That is specific to what peed me off. But that stock, again, you have beautiful sources of information on Twitter. Ham has conversations on that constantly, and I'm hearing that there are rumors, which I'm not going to share. I don't like sharing rumors, um, uh, of very big things coming to Finger. But let me say, in both cases, if you're already out, I wouldn't go hopping. Why? Because if you make a rational decision, just because something else works doesn't mean you did made the wrong decision. And Railtown, I think, is very close. I don't know. Every day I look, and every day nothing gets announced about the conclusion of a 5-month process now. But let me ask you this. Does that mean it's going to take 5 more months? Did they do no work? Are they like a college student who procrastinated? Or do you think they've been working diligently every day? And the fact is that it's taken 5 months. We're just that much closer, maybe imminently any day, that it's finalized. And I think Railtown doesn't have questions about it, other than timing, maybe. Timing. Maybe my urgency is wrong, and maybe it'll be August 15th, or maybe it'll be September 15th. I don't think my urgency is wrong, but it has been so far, hasn't it? Except for price, it keeps going up. GDC is down 82 cents at 350. And ZJYL is down something at 60 cents. Both of those, I would imagine that the players who were in there under the same story that I guess got blurted out across Twitter, so it caused last year, so it caused their attorneys to say, hey, back off. I bet those guys may still be involved, and there may be the war of the computers, the short computers versus the long computers, all cheating, all flash boy crap, high speed frequency trading, trying to confuse the other computer, spoofing, buying, bidding, back and forth, bing, 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 around, sending it around the world. And the one thing they need is you, because they don't put any money in. You do. But if you want to go in there and be fleeced, keep going. Keep going in. William says, I'll show it to you. All right, I have NVIDIA here, Intel, GME, let's look at GME. GME is down 16 cents at 23.54. Remember, there was a gentleman here several times as I was talking about Railtown, when Railtown was 25 cents, by the way, that he's hurrying you into GME. It's 28. He said it's going to moon. And I said, well, you said it's going to the moon. He got all indignant. Oh, you're misquoting me. Whatever. They run up, they take money out, they want you to keep it up while they suck it out. And they'll do it over and over and over again. It's automatic. They're gleeful, and they do it across hundreds of names. This is not, I don't know about GameStop now that it's a big price stock, but it's not a penny stock. But GameStop is $20 overpriced. And you still in it? Because of the dream of a squeeze. You don't know by now that Wall Street has squeezes under control. They control everything except fear, surprise, and an almost fanatical devotion to the Pope. Our chief weapons are fear, surprise. All right, AMC, $3. Hey, we got to get in it. That was high as 6. It's just a theater chain. What's their edge? But you want the short squeeze. You want the dream. You got to stop doing it. The dream's going to be over on these stocks, not because of anything personal to anybody involved. The market is going to go up, in my opinion, in a Weimar Republic like rocket, and speculators are going to make money, but then it's going to correct. My prediction, 95%. But I just to repeat my targets, I think the S&P could go to 8,500, the Dow 65,000, NASDAQ 30,000, Russell 4,000, gold 5,000, and silver 120 before that. It could be September, could be December, could be next March. Afterward, boo, and it changes your life. And day trading, as I read Charlie Munger said, I haven't heard him say it, is idiotic. Day trading is idiotic. Unless you like to sit there all day long, it's idiotic. You make pennies, and one time you have to go to the loo, or one time your mother calls and says, honey, where were you? Or one time your girlfriend says, who was that I saw you with? Or one time your boss says, why are you at your computer? You should be taking the load of lobster to Red Lobster restaurants, and you get away from the computer. One trade can wipe you out. It's just idiotic. People come here getting you excited about a trade. Oh, this one stock, WOLF. Hey, you got it. It worked, but it's bloody Chapter 11. The fact that it worked is totally separate from the stupidity of buying a stock that's in Chapter 11 for equity. It's idiotic. But these people want you emotional, moving, thinking, not thinking, get scared. I'm part of the crowd. William said this. Oh, William, teacher, William said this. Are you children? Not all of you. It's one jerk. All right, what else is here? I already went through the rest. There's Rocket Lab. I'm not going to look at it. Oh, ZJYL. That's, I already told you that. All right. So let's go back to Railtown. The volume is 647,000 shares. The bid is 65 cents, which I think is a legitimate bid. The ask, I'm not so sure about. Who's selling? Who is selling? The high was 69.7. I was watching it this morning. 70 cents showed up quite a bit, but it never printed. They don't want it to print at 70 cents. Now they got it to go down to 63.88 because they think their tricks are going to work here. They're not. They want you selling, but you shouldn't. And they want me telling you that this could take a while and you don't know. And this, none of it's guaranteed. Of course, nothing's guaranteed. Of course, we don't know the exact timing. But I'll tell you where, that works both ways. You snooze, you lose. He who hesitates is lost. A stitch in time saves 9. Hire a lawyer at the beginning of your transaction. You save a bunch of legal costs later on, as much as you can't stand dealing with attorneys, which that's my feeling. All right, I guess my moment didn't calm me down. All right, so we're 66 to 61. Let me just see what I can show you. I'm going to show you what annoyed me. I'll get that out of the way, and I'll stay calm. I hope. I've got to delete some of this stuff that I showed you yesterday to get room. Sorry about that. Just trying to delete. 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 Okay. Okay. Whoever this person is, I just wonder if you're a child. You shouldn't be investing. Joey James Leroy, go do something else with your life. You don't have the critical thinking skills or the listening skills to invest or the patience. So Joey James Leroy says, Frankie, I heard William say yesterday on his live that Finger was going down to 75 cents by year's end. That's scary. It's also bullshit. It's not what I said. And then Ham at the top says, I heard William tell me and the CEO it was going to 100. That's also taken out of context. But that might have been what Ham heard. I don't want to get in a debate like that. So Joey James Leroy, I really think you should get out of investing because you don't know, you don't think, you don't listen, and you're just going to be robbed from. But for example, yesterday, by the end of the year, look what price I gave it. $5, $4 and $5. It's all speculation. Nobody knows where it's going to be. Nobody. So anyway, that's the one that really angered me. Let's see. I want to show you some other things. This is Frankie. Railtown, my blue line indicator has broken on the weekly on the Canadian Stock Exchange. This is very bullish, and it's blue sky. In other words, blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. All right, and then I'll add my own thoughts on that. Of course, it's a terrible, terrible drawing that I made. But here's Railtown, Canada. Railtown, Canada. And in the yellow, I did a very rough pennant, I guess you could call it. You know, I tried to do horizontal on the bottom, but you could make it a diagonal as well. Either way, the slant downward in yellow is where Railtown broke out. And as you see, once it finally breaks out, it does a little bit of a run, but then it pulls back and it tests again. So what was resistance becomes support. And then it bounces around a little bit. And in this case, kind of built a, I don't know, a miniature pennant. And then it runs up. Where did it stop? At the previous high. And that we predicted that. earlier on. It looks like it took, too bad I didn't make us zoom in, but it looks like it took about 5 days, 6 days. I could be wrong. You could look it up, of going kind of sideways. Testing. In other words, it breaks that green line roughly to the upside. That's the resistance. Once it breaks it, it comes back and bounces around in it, testing to see if it's going to be support. And that's good. It's very good. It gives you a stair step to work from. And then now we're in new highs, and the criminals don't want it to run away. But also there's no native buying. The big buyers, the knowledgeable buyers, are precluded from buying for the most part. And so the stock comes back a little bit. It's all very good. It's a pause for the cause. Let me see if I can find something else to share. Yeah, let me just quickly share on Finger something that to follow up to bad Leroy Brown's post. I think this is a chart I just tried to mock up on Finger. That yellow declining wedge of about 2 weeks ago gave me optimism that you could see a bounce to essentially that red line or up to the blue line, filling that gap. But then instead of that happening, I feel like I was wrong. Or maybe it's not so much that I was wrong, it's just that bullish pattern did not evolve because it went sideways. But now in the green, and of course my fat thumb is hard to understand what I did, but there's another declining wedge being formed there. Is it strong? I don't know. Is it going to work? I don't know. But if it were to work, I think the stock could bounce back to that red level, possibly up to the blue. And the blue's 350. The red, I think, is about 270, 280. But so there is some hope in a trade, maybe in Finger. It wouldn't be my favorite choice of a trade, but I just want to let you know that that deep blue line, the long blue line, that's a pretty convincing support level, and that's where we are. So as long as that support holds, there's probably not a lot of risk in the stock. Bad news is, because any stock can break down, bad news if it breaks that, I think, there's a much lower support line. But as of the moment, I think Finger Motion is holding that big long blue line support. That's for bad Leroy Brown. Baddest boy in the whole damn town. Okay, now I want to show you something that I don't know if it's going to help you, confuse you, add to your knowledge, make you excited, make you mad, or you might get what I'm trying to tell you. Fortunately, I don't know which page comes first. I guess this one. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to go. This one. AI market projected to hit 4.8 trillion by 2033. AI market projected to hit 4.8 trillion by 2033, emerging as a dominant frontier technology. AI's rapid rise. This is April 2025. Matt Simmons' birthday. UN Trade and Development. AI's rapid rise risks deepening divides with development concentrated in major economies and firms. Strategic investment, blah, blah, inclusivity. It's all about inclusivity. The orange is artificial intelligence now, a $2.5 trillion market. That's still pretty big right now. But by 2033, it's expected to grow to 20% of the frontier tech market. And 16.4 trillion, I guess, is the total pie. And let's go here. I already did that one. So artificial intelligence, AI, is fast becoming the defining technology of our time. A new UN Trade and Development report projects the global AI market will soar from 189 billion. I'm going to write that down. 189 billion in 2023. This is global. Go global. So 189 billion in the global AI market. 2023, 2 years ago, 189 billion. Soar in 2033, a decade later, soar to 4.8 trillion. Pretty big. A 25-fold increase in just a decade. By then, AI could quadruple its share of the global frontier technology market, rising from 7 to 29% and emerging as the sector's dominant force. But AI's rapid growth risks widening global divides. But AI's rapid growth risks widening global divides, and that's the point of this thing. So in 22, just 100 companies, mainly in the world's 2 largest economies, accounted for 40% of global AI research and development. Right up the alley for Railtown. And then they talk about the impact on jobs. And they give you a chart here, mind the gap. The stark global divide in AI strategies. Developed countries versus developing, and the lesser developed. Wonder how the Southern Don region is doing. And then we'll finish it off with the highlighted. They give some ideas for economies. But anyway, deciding AI's future, global cooperation, that's fine. Today's AI landscape is shaped by multinational tech giants, Apple, NVIDIA, Microsoft. I think those are all natural buyers of Railtown, by the way. Each of these have a market value of around 3 trillion. Each have a market value, not total, each have a market value of around 3 trillion, rivaling the GDP of the entire African continent. The future is Africa and female. The future is female. The future is Africa. I don't know if that works together. All right. Um, the stock now is 65 cents, 66 cents. It's up. A penny, almost a penny. The volume today is 662. I'm guessing they could get to 1 million today. It's all calm, very calm. They want you to think nothing's going on. Calm. There's some other things I wanted to show you, but I'll skip it for now because I've already exposed you to being frustrated. I'm not on here. I'm not trying to be in a pissing contest with anyone. I really don't care about some of those people at all. And as they might say in North Carolina, the furthest thing from my mind is to be involved with these people a minute longer of my life. And I'm not talking about, there's one person I'm not talking about that you're going to think. But I just want to disengage. And I'm going to disengage. And if you want to come with me, come with me. If you want to stay there and lose your money, stay there. But I'm going to, for those people who, I can't quit. I'm not going to quit. But I'm not going to. Hey, hear this story? It's got a CEO. Oh, great. CEO. Great. Yeah, and it's got a couple of billionaires are in it buying the stock. Oh, wow. Billionaires. Never met one of those. Never. They're different, aren't they? Aren't billionaires different than everybody else? Wow, they must be smart if they're buying that one. Yeah, and there's a bunch of whales and we control the float and there's a huge short position and the shorts are calling into the company to buy stock and there's rumors Goldman Sachs is involved and there's a rumor that Beyonce is going to marry the CFO and there's rumors that Vladimir Putin is going to bomb all of their competitors. It's going to be great. If you want to follow those stories, you can follow them. Just don't put me in a pissing match with anybody. I'm not interested anymore. Any of them. Just not interested. I'm not picking any of these stocks right now, but in the future, I just don't want to, that used to be what that used to be called, or the name of the final product was the stock pool. And in the last time the market went wild, which was 100 years ago, and then the Great Depression, October 29th came. The crash of October 29th, sorry. But what led up to it were stock pools. And guys like Joe Kennedy would start a rumor, pick a stock, start a rumor, start buying it up. The public would fly in because it was speculative fever. The stock would go up in the stock pool. And as it's going up, whatever the rumor was, whatever the story, Kennedy and his buddies would sell out. They did it over and over again. And who was left hanging the bag, holding the bag? The public. And when the markets crashed, it was largely blamed on Hoover, although I guess that's debatable. But it's blamed on Hoover. And then in came FDR, and FDR appointed Joe Kennedy as his first SEC chairman. Basically, he said, paraphrasing, who's better to control the crooks than a crook? But there's no one controlling it now. Financialization has gone to the edge, and the cheating is rampant. The Everybody is looking the other way. And if you want to be victim, please be victim. But just don't bring it to my channel anymore. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you because I thought there was validity in the theory. And I went through it with you. And I made my stumbles. But I no longer believe any CEO who has an over-the-counter firm which needs to raise money. Good luck. It's like that movie Taken. Good luck. And then any NASDAQ company, you go up there with that incompetent woman, Adina Friedman, whoo, your stock is going to be cut down to size. They got derivatives going. They've got options to hedge risks. And if you need capital, you're going to be destroyed. So do you want to keep doing it? Keep doing it. Or find a company. Find a company that doesn't belong on NASDAQ or on over the counter. In fact, it's a Canadian company in this case, but a company that's just going to, in my opinion, it'll be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I don't know how long that process takes, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. I don't know if it's a good call, but I bet it could happen before the end of the year. But it'll happen quickly, and it'll leave these shorties holding their shorties. I hope it doesn't squeeze, though. Squeezes turn your investment into hot money, and next thing I know, you're in the next hot story. And the only people that make money in those are the so-called, financial bankers. They're not really bankers. They're capital formation. They're all capital companies. There's hundreds of them. LLC, this or that. The Jeff Eastons of the world, the Kramers, they make money. The IR types, the consultants, they make money. And the people shorting make money. And then the prime brokers who were processing all of the lickety splitting, they make money. Adina, of course, cashes her $2.5 million a month on her ever flabbying butt because she doesn't do anything. And Chuck E. Cheese Cromwell makes his goofy smiles with his goofy smiling team that do nothing. They all make money, but they're just the bureaucrats in this thing. And you want to keep playing it because it's your golden ticket out, and it's going to happen. Well, they have a name for the losers in the world. They call me Deacon Blues. All right, let's go down to your comments. $0.65. They have it down in the red now. Railtown closed at 65.22. So that's what it's down, 0.0022. Very little volume, 662,000. Since about 11:30, I'd say it's, maybe 125,000 shares. I might be wrong, I'm estimating, but it's really not that much volume compared to the whole day. So this pullback, I think, is a manipulated pullback. They have 50,000 shares on offer at 66.1. Nobody's selling. There's a possibility it's a hedge against the dollar and against the loonie, against the, trading against the Canadian price. But I think it's just pure manipulation, pure spoofing. And that'll disappear as it marches upward. So I'll go through your comments. I'll try to be more upbeat because it looks like we have about it's 1:40, so we have about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Should you desire to add to your positions, anything I say is not financial advice. Do I have to say it every time? I guess I do. Uh, the last few weeks, I've had urgency, and I've told you, you don't know how much basically, you don't know how much it's going to cost tomorrow. And the fact is today, it's not that much more expensive than yesterday. But it doesn't mean tomorrow the stock won't be 75 cents. The stock could be 70 cents at the close today, frankly. So it's annoying that you're paying double what you could have paid, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's annoying, but I still think you can get 10x from here. So in a repricing, the repricing could take, my opinion, the repricing could happen in 48 hours. But to be fair, we don't know. We don't know how long a shareholder's vote's going to take. We don't know what price levels funds come in at. So it could take 6 weeks. It could take 8 weeks. It could take 10 weeks to give you 10x. But what's the probability of it? To get 10x in this stock, I think the probability is 99%. That doesn't, 1% doesn't give much room for the speculative nature of it, I know. But I think that first repricing is almost baked in the cake. What I don't know is when. I don't know when, how long. And I would trade that confidence that, for me, you can make your own decision. I would trade all the other uncertainty, all the other manipulation, all the other setups that you know are going to fail. Even if another stock squeezes, you're not going to sell it. Because it'll go up. Let's pick on one. Let's pick on GTII. It goes to 9. And everybody, including myself at that time, the squeeze is on, the squeeze. We didn't know that the system could go hire 3 guys and just pop the bubble. But they did. And if it hadn't been those 3 guys, it would have been another 3 guys, or it would have been another schemer. But is it, in retrospect, the answer is from the criminals, well, you could have gotten out at 9. You could have gotten out at 8. But that wasn't our thought process then. That wasn't our knowledge then. That's not what we were being pitched either. But remember the stock pools? Joey Kennedy? Rumors get around, hey, TKO radio is taking over Ohio's radio station. It's going to go to the moon. No. I didn't say it's going to the moon. I said it's going to moon. All right, it's going to moon. Everybody gets in it. And the hype is on. It's going to go. And it goes from, 50 cents to $15. It's going to 150. But the guys talking to each other, the guys colluding, the guys racketeering, the guys breaking securities laws, the guys doing it all, manipulating, they get out. And then later they say, well, you had a chance to get out. Should do your due diligence. Hey, you made your own decision. You pulled your own ticket. Guys, it's insane to stay. That's expression about Einstein, but it's true. Do you really think the result is going to change? If you just keep doing it, you're going to get a better result. If you're more loyal, if you tattletale on William, Oh, William said it was going to go to 75 cents by the end of the year. I pity the fool. I pity the fool. My prediction, pain. It's got to be tough to go through life dumb. But I don't think it's easy to go through life at all anyway. So the stock's dead. Let me go to your points, and that'll get me out of my mood. Marco Polo. Marco Flug. See, anybody before Marco, I lost your comment. Darn it. So if you put up your shares before Marco, can you repost them? Darn it, I'm sorry. Because you know who was here? Tebow, Alex was first. Sorry about that. All right, Marco, I'm going to put you down. That's awesome. Marco, that's awesome. Flug. 6,500 shares. CB. RLAIF got up to, I don't know how to pronounce that. RLAIF? RLAIF got up to 69 cents. Keep the faith. You're right. Thank you for that. Those shills aren't going to make money here either. That's true. Good. I'm glad they're not going to take your money. Hey, Ryan Sartell. Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel, and I'm a RLAIFaholic. CB, I see you're upset again. I know. That's my flaw. You must learn to delete people. Why put yourself through all this? This is what you love. That's an interesting point, CB. I don't love taking advantage of people, and I don't love being in all this muck, but you have a pretty good observation. I started this early on. This isn't, a hey, the stock broke out, better hop in it. I started this when nobody, uh, not nobody, that's probably not right, but I didn't get any real positive support from other people that speak loudly. I did get from, from my network. I did, but I did that, and you're right. I do feel good about that. I think you guys did it. I don't want to take credit, but I feel good about that. 8 million shares. It's amazing. It's not all my work, it's just a collective understanding. But CB, I'll feel really good when you guys are rich. I really will. I really will. And I also will feel good when you escape from. There's nobody on Wall Street that if you came in and opened an account would tell you to buy an over-the-counter stock or a penny stock. And I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And now I think the Merrill Lynch rule is probably a pretty good guideline, even though it's unfair. But one thing to do as an investor, just buy stocks that institutions are buying. Why? Because they can fight the shorting. The rest of us, we don't have the weapons. Why, Pete the Greek? That's amazing. Pete the Greek. Friends. That's awesome. I hope they'll buy you dinner when it's all over. Hey, money magnet. Go rail. I'm tired of shopping at Aldi. Why, they only speak German? Well, are you papers? Whole Foods, money magnet. I'm starting to shop at Whole Foods, although the last week I've had a really hard time walking. I did do it, and oh boy, serenity now. I kept telling myself, and I kept thinking, at least I'm getting there, but it took forever. I had a lot of pain. But Whole Foods, I went in money magnet. I don't know about Aldi. In London, I've been to Aldi, but I don't know what they're like here. But if you go into Giant Food or Safeway or some of the number of smaller establishments, and you take a critical eye to the aisles, and you kind of try to think like RFK, there's no food in our grocery stores. The white bread's all crap. The processed meats all crap. There's a little section of fresh vegetables. Well, a couple of aisles. Probably all right. The dressings are all crap. The condiments are all crap. The pasta is all crap. The sauces are crap. The soups are crap. Everything in the frozen it's all bad for you. So I think you should spend the money on Whole Foods, is my point. If you want to live longer, you gotta buy Whole Foods. You gotta. That's it. Be funny. Your human is so much fun. Where is my human? I don't have a human. I need one. As long as she doesn't take half of everything I owe. All right, Pete. I wrote it down. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. My humor. My humor. Yeah. Um, Pete, I put you down. For some reason, I had you down at 50, but I changed it to 30. So that was one of the reasons yesterday's didn't go up very much. But that's all right. That's great. I think 30's awesome. 30 is going to make you, if I'm right, and I wouldn't be saying this stuff if I didn't, 30 is going to change your outlook in life. And it's not hot money. That's all it's not a win for retail. It's not, hey, let's sell that and let's go into 10 cent or whatever the new offering is. Uh, um, but that's awesome. And your friend has 100. Theo, I'm going to put that down. Theo. He sounds Greek. Which one of you is really Greek? There is a joke about the two Greek brothers, but I'm not going to say it. My sister, years ago, she almost married a Greek guy that she was involved with, Teddy. Um, he a hardworking guy. They met at this restaurant, and then he started his own. I don't know, maybe a pizza chain, but he made money. He was a good guy. He did. He had dove. He dived off a Navy boat. I think it was in the Greek Navy or something, but in the harbor, he jumped off and came in to the United States. But I remember she didn't want to go through with it, and she had a dinner to meet his parents, and I was working at Merrill. I wanted to be out that night with everybody, and I think I had the worried about this one girl out. But anyway, my sister called me up. Bill, can you take them to dinner? Or I said, do they speak English? No, but just, I don't want you to take them out. Can you just invite them over to your place and serve dinner? Oh, what a night. They were very nice, but I wasn't particularly good at cooking. And my sister didn't show up. Terry didn't show up. So it was Terry's mother and father in from the Greek islands speaking no English. And I had limited understanding of language. So, but I remember using Russian and French and anything, but the words there was no connection. I think brother was about the same. What a night that was. What a night. Jeffrey Fast. Yay, Jeffrey Fast. That was quick. Uh, 2,168. That's awesome. Awesome. Hey, Red Pepper Ronnie. Do I know where Finger earnings are? Let me look. I don't know if my system says. I don't know if it says it, but let me look. Earnings, July 15, estimated before market. So let's see if they had news. I don't see any news, but my service, it's E-Trade. It doesn't always give news. So let me go to Yahoo. Grandpa bought a rubber. That's Steve Martin. Can't take credit for that joke. Who would? Take credit for that joke? Who would take credit for that joke? But that's what we called funny back when I was your age. Let me see earnings. No, they haven't come out. At least they're not. They're not on. The news wires. You're insulting children. All right, I'll try Pete the Greek. If this works out, I'm going to buy. I've been paying monthly to this service, which I always want to cancel, and then I think, no, this will be the month. But I want to get a computer, and then I can add voice. And it's a service other than StreamYard where it's easy to add voice, and I think that'd be great. I also think it'd be good to get a partner of some kind. Hopefully, nothing like a beautiful woman to attract customers and to change the mood and keep me civil. I think that's a great idea. I don't know. I should do X calls. I don't know how to do them. I could ask Busy Brands. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I think the world of him. Maybe I could ask Junk Savvy to help. I could do a space call. Yeah, let me think about that. It's a good idea. Then other people could talk and I could just shut up. CB, when fake shorts sell, do they lose money since none of us are selling? Well, if you measured it the way we do, yes, because we would have our limit and we can only really do it once unless we keep adding money. Yes, they can lose money. Let me show you that. I've done it before, but I can show it to you, I think, pretty easily. I mean, and in a very cartoon fashion, but I think I might be able to get it across to you. We could use this stock. I think they're going to lose money in this stock. But today, in the morning, they let Railtown open at 66, but it went to 69.7. So just for ease, let's say, and the volume was pretty high this morning. Let's say the shorts got 100,000 shares sold at 70 cents. So they brought in I think 70,000, but let me make sure. Yeah, I'm a real financial genius. I have to type that one up. So they brought in 70,000 by selling 100,000 shares short this morning. Let's say that happened. It's pretty accurate if they shorted it like that. Now, I actually think they do it with themselves. They sell that stock. There's some shorts that just do it with the computers all day long. With every 0.0001, book it, do it again, do it again. It's illegal, but it's allowed because they're good customers. But what they would be doing, if it all worked, problem is it's not working for them. But in theory, just broadly, if right now they could buy 100,000 at 66 cents, they'll do it. And they make $4,000. They sell stock they don't own, drive it down, wait, and you're the buyer. That's the real asset. It's the only asset is you putting up cash, and they buy it back during the day. It's $4,000. There are, like I say, there are these shorts. They don't say they're shorting. It's an arbitrage. But they sell stock they don't have buyback. They're doing it all day long. That's when you see the huge volumes. Now, to use a different example in Railtown, let's say, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, they sold 100,000 shares at 30 cents. They brought in $30,000. And now the stock is Now the stock is 60 cents. So they're losing $40,000 on that trade. And you're saying to yourself, how are they going to cover it? And they're paying fees and all that. How are they going to cover that? Well, what they'll do in an ideal world where it works, let's say 3 weeks ago, someone comes in and sells 100,000 shares at 40 cents. So they bring in 40,000. And the buyer is the first guy. And there's fees. I'm ignoring that. So they pay 40,000. And they lose $10,000. And you're saying, well, how? That's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. They lose 10,000. But remember the strategy of doing that high frequency trading today, they could have been the guy today after they lost that. They could be, if they have enough credit, they could be the guy that made money today. They don't look at it, oh my gosh, I lost 10 grand. They're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep churning the water. And eventually the buying stops and it pulls back and they try to make that back that day. It's a different mentality. But anyway, so they lose 10. And then let's say somebody sells 100,000 at 50. And these guys are the buyer. I'm going to abbreviate it. They lose 10. And then let's say today, somebody else sells 100,000 at 60. And they lose 10. But remember, they're not booking these losses. They keep trading, hoping. So let me just go through these. So the first time, the short comes in at 30 cents because he thinks he can get it down to 25 cents. Doesn't work. So his buddy comes in and buys it at 40 cents. He books a loss of 10 grand, but now the short's over on this guy's account. So it's an LLC. They all work together. This guy's an LLC, that's an LLC, and then he's down. So this guy sells 100,000 shares. He buys it, closes it out at a loss. So you've got 10,000 loss, 20,000 loss. Now this guy's hoping to make profit. And then it turns out somebody has to come in at 60 cents, and this guy's losing, where is it? Right here, 60 cents, and this guy loses 10 grand. Well, now what they're hoping, so that's, in this example, that's a loss of 10, a loss, it's a lot, their hard loss is 30,000. And now they have an exposure of 100,000 at 60 cents, and they're down 10 grand now. So somebody comes in now, an LLC, and maybe they sell 200,000 shares they don't own, at 69 cents. Let's call it 70. And they're hoping that thereby, so this guy books his 10,000 loss. So they pressed their bet. And right now they're down 40 grand. But to the compliance officers, it's different accounts. They don't know. And it might be European, so no one follows it. Out of Germany, no one follows it. So now they booked, all the ones I showed you on the other page plus this, they've booked 40,000 in losses, but now this guy's gone short. He's doubled it, 200,000. And in reality, they try to trade all day. That's why they want you buying. They tried to reduce this every day. They don't do it all dramatically at once, like I'm drawing it. But then what they're hoping, they're down 40. They're down 40. They hope that they can drive the stock down from 70 cents to 35 cents. So on 200,000 shares, he paid 140,000. That was his cost. But if he can buy it back at 35 cents, oh, sorry, my apologies. He doesn't, when he sells it at 70, he doesn't pay that. That's what he brought in at the prime broker minus fees. If he then buys it back at 35 cents for 200,000, he pays 70,000. And he profits 70. And he lost 40. The group lost, they go meet at Harry's bar. They lost 40 grand. They actually do it probably on WhatsApp. And they have 30, I know it's messy. So the cumulative loss from moving it from LLC to LLC, 40 grand. And so finally at 70 cents, they come in, they figured now's the time to act. We'll sell 200, driving it back down to 35 cents. And we'll profit 70 grand. We'll cover the losses of all the other people that are colluding with us, pay some fees and some commissions, but ignoring that. We got 30 grand that we can distribute. And I forget on the other page, I think it was 4 people, and this is the 5th. You split that out five ways. Everybody walks away with 5 grand for playing with other people's money. And you do it on stock after stock after stock. The key ingredient is they need sheep to shear, to fleece. And it works. But what's happening here, what's going to be frightening for them is Railtown's not going down. It's not going down. They're not going to be able to do it. So it's a whole different ball game. And it couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. But don't feel sorry for them. They'll make it up. They figure they'll make it up if Railtown does squeeze. I hope it doesn't. They'll make it on it'll become volatile, and then they'll make it trading that. They're very disciplined because it's their computers, not because they have any skill. And if they just do it over and over again, the law of large numbers with the cheating. You remember that movie? That guy, Jeremy Irons? So give it to me straight. I think, whatever. He says, I hear the music. And right now, I'm not hearing any music playing. I'm paid. You wonder why I have this job? I'm paid to hear the music. And so, anyway, he says, there's 3 ways to win in this: be smarter, be first, or cheat. And he says, I don't cheat. So, but they do. They cheat. They're not smarter. They just cheat. That's why they're bullies. They're not very smart. It's starting to trade. It's 213, and they're starting to spoof a lot. 75, 29, 5, 4, 5, 54, 5, 54, 5. It's all communications, 29, 5, 25. No volume changes. Volume's not changing. 75 grand, 4,500, 54, 5, 4,500, 54, 5. Nothing's happening. They're trying to induce, they need you to buy so they can they can hide their trading. It's pitiful. Ham has a GBUX call at 1:45. So sorry, I just saw that. I hope you guys went over to it. I'm, like I say, I hear through the grapevine. Apparently Ham doesn't speak to me any longer. But I hear through the grapevine that there's big things going on at GBUX. You go to Twitter, and you can hear the replay, but you go to Twitter and I would search by finger, but you could search by GBUX, and you'll see him there. You'll see him there. I think it's something like Ham at Short Killer or something, or Ham Shorts, but you'll see him there. And you follow him, and you go to his page, and there'll be a recording of his call. CJ Yukon added 21,000. Wow. $21,000. So that's Yukon, huh? Yukon don't scare me. Actually, no, it's already over with. Yukon is usually a good choice in March Madness. RLAIF. Hey, John, good morning. Northeast Iowa. I'm still buying, bought another 5,000. Good for you, Northeast Iowa. I'm glad. The one benefit of seeing me all this time and losing my cool is that you are getting a chance to buy more. And that's my judgment. It's not financial advice. I guess I got to just keep saying that over and over again. It's not financial advice. Railtown Roosters, Riders. The Railtown winners. Railtown winners, so sick of winning. Railtown redeemers. The Railtown wreckers. The Railtown Roadshow. Renegades is good too. Pete the Greek. Wow. Just got another 10,000. Wow, Pete. That's awesome. That is awesome. How can I contact you? We need to take this deck. I want to help. Okay. Um, Here's how you can, of course, Steve's tried to do this for a couple weeks, and I think it's the way I've managed my stress. I've just done what I can do and then left the rest. And it's showing up in gout. I know it's my penance. It's my penance. So it's that you can email me, farrandbalanced at gmail.com. farrandbalanced@gmail.com. farrandbalanced@gmail.com. Fair and balanced at gmail.com. Railtown Riders, CB Riders, Scott Przybolinsky. That's very hard. Let me see if I can do it. Focus. I would say it's Scott Zabinski. I would bet the PR is silent. It's a good name. I just wish I could get it right. PRZYBY Linsky. That's great. 8,000 is awesome. Don't worry if you don't get to 10. There's always later on. Flying bus driver. Flying bus driver is my hero. I still want to know if those switches can be turned off accidentally or if it's electronic. I don't really believe that pilot committed suicide. I don't really buy it. Wow, 46,000. Yay. You're going to be a rich man. Ba-da-ba-da-bum. All day long. Wow, the volume's up to 700,000 while I wasn't looking. They did 10,000 at 6608, 12,000 at 6608. So CB, I think some of that moving it around, and they guarantee each other's losses to the extent they can. That's great, flying bus driver. And Pete, I think I have that down. 40 and 100, I do. You're both Greek. Opa. I like the way you put it. Escape from the pump and dumpers and pumpers. Dumper. That's yeah. When you put it that way, I like the way I put it. Greek, I know. Doing X spaces. I know we can do it. I don't know how to do it, but I don't remember that it was difficult once you get it going. But anyway, CJU 21,000 at 65. Awesome. Yeah, see now that I've got to be careful there because it gets misinterpreted. Any kind of corporate strategy requires hard work, lawyers, meetings, flights, time, and it takes time. And I think that if we can call it inflection points, and that guy bad Leroy Brown just didn't listen to what I said. And I don't want to, I find it quite, I don't like the blowback when I put through my thought process, but you should do it yourself. You should think through likelihoods of outcome, risks to outcome. Like for example, with Railtown, somebody asked the other day, what if the merger doesn't happen? The acquisition doesn't happen? Well, I mean, that's possible. I don't think the odds are very high, but it's possible it doesn't happen. I would say the risks of the deal not going through are 5 or 10%, very low. But it did. If it did happen, what would happen to the price of the stock? I would imagine initially the shorts would jump in to try to drive it and then cross. But they need you in there to get it done. They can cross amongst themselves. That's just masturbation. But they need the girl so they can tell the guys you know, well, you know. And unfortunately, we're the girl. Man, they're trying to scare you into selling. They're moving it down, and they want it to look like there's a lot of sellers. 19,000, 50,000, 57,000. They just want you, and they want you thinking the selling, but it's not working. I hope it's not working. Well, no, you guys can pick the name. If that's the one you settle on, I'm happy with it. Don't let me choose. It's going to be on your T-shirt. Hey, Gary Madrill, and mine. G Diddy. Hey, G Diddy. Added another 75 to this estate account. Your brother's going to love you. And you know what? G Diddy, if, and I think it will work, the estate account can be your, I forget who died. It was your parents or your brother. Anyway, it can be your relative. They can be there helping you the rest of your life. Just so, okay. Eddie Eagle, one of Ham's best calls on X, Hartfield. So the place to go here, Ham's call. You just go to Twitter and Google, search Finger, FNGR, or GBUX, and you'll see Ham. I think it's Ham short or something, but you'll see it. And just follow him so you get notices in the future. But just go to his, whatever it's called, postings, and you'll see the replay for his call. You'll see the replay for your call. I watched your video last year. I'm interested in what you can put together as an investment group. Yeah, I'd like to do that, G Diddy. I've been waiting for the I don't know what to call it. The mover, the prime mover. I've been waiting to get going, and I've already been working on it, but it's been frustrating because everything requires money. I am going to attend a conference next week, and I hope to have lined up at least 3 projects locked down for this, and I have strategies both to keep some things private, but also to take advantage of the public markets. I'm sure they'll, as ever, try to always destroy everything, and if I'm involved in it, they will. But I know one thing about me: I'm not going to take any money from any of the criminals. So I don't mind spending the night or 2 nights in a strange motel, or flying, 8 cities in 2 weeks to pitch the deal to investors. I'm not lazy that way. I'm not impressed going to New York and walking into Jeff Lynn's office, and he pours a drink and he says, "I'm not the one shorting." It doesn't fly my boat. But yeah, I'd really like to get going. And in other words, G Diddy, I'd like to get going now, like August. But I don't know. It's been like waiting on Godot. Waiting on Godot. They stopped moving it around. They're at 715,000, and everything is calm. I don't know why they stopped. Hey Steve, that's awesome. Wow. Wow. Steve, you're making more money. You're just making more money, that's all. 2847. I'm going to assume you're going to get the rest of that done. I think you'll get the rest of it done. Good for you. I'm as bad as I'm making you wait. I don't mean to be rude. Railtown Freight Train. Kenneth Martin. Man, you guys. If we ever have like a big gathering, I'm going to be too scared to get up and talk. You guys are going to, you guys are all going to drive up in Maseratis, and I'll admire the person that drives up in an old pickup truck, because we gotta be ready for what's coming. Junk could do it. Junk could do it. All right, Pete. I knew you'd finish it. Man, Steve, I'm impressed with you. And do you see, I remember I was a little bit hard on you about making the swap. Do you see how important it was to get in? Well, 110% ago? It makes you feel powerful as it goes. It's just all human. It's the human experience. I read a article that, just to change the subject, because my head is pounding a bit, and I'd like to just change the subject to, this is by Tyler Durden yesterday. And wow, P-Man. I'll write that down. I'm not sure. I think his name is Andreessen, rich guy. But very interesting about higher education in the United States. Venture capitalist Mark Andreessen warned that universities engaging in discriminatory practices against students and faculty will face significant consequences, according to Washington Post source. In the private group with AI scientists and Trump officials, Andreessen stated that universities, quote, declared war on 70% of the country, and now they're going to pay the price, unquote. He criticized DEI and immigration policies, describing them as, quote, two forms of discrimination that are, quote, politically lethal. The combination of DEI and immigration, he typed, and then he typed systemic discrimination against the Trump voter base. Then he typed, the Trump voter base has figured this out. And then I have not yet found anyone in university leadership who will engage on this, because they're all chicks or simps. Andreessen further claimed that Stanford University and MIT are operating as, quote, mainly political lobbying operations fighting American innovation, unquote. The billionaire tech investor also addressed Stanford's decision to remove his wife, Laura Arriga Andreessen, Laura AA, as chair of its Center on Philanthropy and Civil Society. What idiocy. Noting it was done, quote, without a second thought, a decision that will cost them something like $5 billion in future donations. And then he put on his post, Mark Andreessen wrote, when these two forms of discrimination combined, as they have for the last 60 years, and on hyperdrive the last decade, they systematically cut most of the children of the Trump voter base out of any realistic prospect of access to higher education in corporate America. That's the arrogance of these highly educated, overeducated feminists. I believe, he says, I believe those of you here who do PhD admissions, I believe you're not discriminating, but you're at the end of a long pipeline that has discriminated, starting with undergrad admissions, as well as private K through 12 admissions for some students, and some public magnet schools. So, of course, you have to go overseas to get qualified PhD candidates. Most of the native-born kids who could have been in that pipeline were cut out of it long before you would have met them. But if your institutions have an undergrad component, they are certainly discriminating in these ways, actively and enthusiastically. This wasn't the first time Andreessen has called out what he perceives as a broken university system. In a recent interview with billionaire venture capitalist and Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale, Andreessen raised concerns about access to elite education. My feeling of all my life on discrimination and unfairness, education makes the difference. And if it can't be that, an early command of reading, writing somewhat, and speaking somewhat, but reading is the where you can find mentors, where you can find ideas, and where you can make it ahead. But you need education early on to be able to do that successfully. So, quote, if you're the parents of a smart kid where I grew up, rural Wisconsin, and you think you're going to get them into a top university in this country, you're fooling yourself, Andreessen said. What level of untapped talent exists in this country that a combination of DEI and immigration have basically cut out of the loop for the last 50 years? I agree with him. I agree with him. Andreessen argued that the intersection of DEI policies and high-skilled immigration has warped perceptions of who gets access to elite education. Nobody wants to talk about it, but I've started to talk about the intersection of DEI and immigration that has really warped our perceptions on high-skilled immigration over the last 50 years, he said. Andreessen also pointed to the sharp rise in foreign enrollment in top universities, noting, quote, you look at the foreign enrollment rates at the top universities, which went from 2 or 3 or 4% 50 years ago, or whatever, to 27, 30, or 50% now. Quote, there's been this massive transformation of who gets admitted through affirmative action, as we now know it, DEI. The tech billionaire continued, quote, this goes straight to the political divide in this country. If you're parents of a kid where I grew up, I already read that, but they double printed it. Andreessen drove the point home, adding, quote, there is this really fundamental question, which is, what level of untapped talent exists in this country? I already read that. And how long can we have this story to everybody in the Midwest and in the South that says, sorry, because of historical oppression, your kids are shit out of luck? You haven't read your fortune cookie. What's it say, sucker? It says you're shit out of luck. Anyway, I found that topic very interesting. I also saw that Lara Trump is saying that Donald Trump is going to take care of this Epstein crap. I'm willing to give him a wide leeway, but he runs the risk of losing his congressional majorities if he doesn't do something, in my opinion. Please get your blood pressure checked, plenty of water. Yeah, I've got to go to the doctor again, and plenty of water. Let me have some water. We're all screwed if something happens to you. No, I don't think so. Apparently, Ham's friend has, he posted 3 million shares. I think it's the same guy the other guy talks about. So you got 2 people there that can keep you up to date. GBUX, huge bounce in progress. Yeah, I heard that, I don't have it up here, but I heard something's going on there. And so Ham had a call on it. Yeah, it's up 42 cents at $1.88. I don't remember where it was a couple of weeks ago. Its volume is 183,000, which is more than the 10-day average. The range has been 20 cents to $10. The high, it's making new highs on the day. And yeah, I didn't listen to the call. So if you go to Ham's call and get the update on GBUX, you'll get the best current information. I hesitate to give any advice. Because, well, number one, it's not financial, it's just theoretical. But also, I really, it's one of those situations that provokes such a backlash that I'm not sure it's worth it. I want you away, if possible. I want you away from the hopping, the hot money. Oh my God, I'm going to miss it. You miss things sometimes. On the other hand, if that's in your spirit, if that's in your, and particularly if you have a big enough account, you can take those punts. But please don't mistake the fact that Railtown has now, let me just look. It was Thursday morning, June 5th, I think. Yeah, Thursday morning, June 5th. I couldn't stand it anymore. The reason I waited to that Thursday is the X date, the headline said X date on GBUX. Of course, once I reread it, is the wrong headline. That was actually the record date. But I just couldn't stand waiting. I just couldn't stand waiting any longer. And so I swapped everything out in my puny account to Railtown. Now at that time, I think I paid $32.7 for Railtown. And the next week, Railtown went down. And I couldn't look. I couldn't look at the other stocks because I figured they'd be going up and I'd be wrong and blah, blah, blah. But I just did it. I asked myself one question. Am I going to be mad at myself if, that Friday or that Monday, Railtown comes to conclusion on the deal and the stock goes to $1.05 or $1.25 or $1.50? Am I going to be mad at myself if I don't own as many shares as I can? And I said, yes, I'm going to be furious at myself. And so then I said, well, will I be mad at myself if I swap over to Railtown and one of the other stocks runs? Yeah, that would be annoying, but I won't be mad. I made peace with it because I don't know that it's going to run, number one. But number two, if it does, I've done that in life before, particularly when you're trading options. You can be correct in the direction of the stock, but you run out of time. So what I said to myself that Thursday is, you just ran out of time to take advantage of whatever upside those other stocks have. Somebody else will have it. Be happy for someone else. And just be glad that you maximize to the extent you could your ownership of Railtown. And yeah, if you waited, maybe you could do the dance. Maybe one goes up and you can sell and come back in Railtown. But on the other hand, by that time, Railtown might be $2, $3, $4, $5. It's too many unknowns. So I that's what I did. I said to myself, which direction will I be more pissed off? If I miss out on Railtown, or if by switching for intelligent reasons into Railtown, because any day it could happen. Any day. It didn't though. Look at the whole month went by. I made my commitment then. The whole month went by. I was wrong. I was early. But the fact is, it could have happened any day. I don't know better. And then now in July, we're already here in July. So my urgency has not been correct, except as it turns out, I was able to buy more shares at 32.7 than I'd be able to buy right now, having waited at 66 cents. And I'd be really mad at myself now because of those stocks. Neither one is up. So I would right now I'd be panicking and I've got to do it. And I'd have a lesser amount. So there's no perfect way to do it. You just got to pull up your britches and wash your hands, I hope, and enter the tickets. Mark Andreessen used to live next door to my parents' lake home. I used to take him out fishing. Wow, Bob, that's amazing. That's amazing. Was he rich? I know who you mean. You mean Andreessen. I know who you mean. Figures my luck on GBUX, but oh well. Yeah, I don't know what you sold it out at, but yeah, that's the tough thing. But Steve, I still think if you're making the decision, the variability in outcomes, the volatility in outcomes, the counting on other things to happen that you have very little knowledge of, but they could happen. And like I said, I heard last night that there's a big motion happening there, but there's two things you don't know. You don't know for sure it's going to work, but it could, and you don't know when. And so the when is more interesting to me than it looks like it's going to trade at $2 now. The volume's not really picking up, but it could. We've got an hour and 15 minutes. And, but remember, Steve, I believe, and I'd have to defer to your knowledge. It looks like they're going to get it at 2. Yeah, it just traded at 2. And I would just turn it off. That's what I would do. I don't know why I'm looking at it. It's breaking 2 now. You're right. Let's just go back to Railtown. Railtown, I think, will be $2 very quickly. And it could, I don't know. I don't know the timing. It could be tomorrow. But this is something that I faced when I sold my shares of everything else to buy Railtown. There's always a risk one of those will work out. But it's not just that you owned it. It's, will you sell it at the right time? Will you sell it quickly to come back to Railtown? So let me give you an example. For me, I don't know what your thoughts are. This is just for me. My goal was to own as much Railtown as possible and hold it. The other things were trades. They weren't long-term holds. And I don't know what your thoughts are on GBUX. It might be that it was a long-term hold. I don't know. But if it's a short-term trade, one thing you got to ask yourself is, do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Oh, Mr. Harry, you're not going to like what I have to say. But the thing is, if you're in it, right now there's some enthusiasm. I believe the shorts will come try to suppress that, but it doesn't mean that'll last. Because if you've got big buyers in there, they can overcome that in the short run. But my point is, I don't know where the stock's going to go. Is it going to squeeze? Well, then that is a black swan. That'll be the first time in everything we've done And I personally will say good for the people that have it. Good on them. I hope they get out at the right price. I hope they stop their addiction right there, because it's like heroin or something. You got to stop at the right time. Or what is that stuff that they do? Rock ball or something. But my point is, pick a number. If you think it's going to go to 8, Railtown could be at 8. So there's two parts of the variables you don't know. Is that going to run quickly? And the timing. Is it going to run, basically? And the timing. I don't know. For me, Steve, it is kind of an oh well, and I don't look anymore, although I just did, because I'm very happy and content to have the Railtown I have. And the only thing is, you could say to yourself, I could have bought more Railtown if I had waited. That's true. So in the future, as you're sitting on your lake house with your kids, grandkids, and your account's worth quite a lot, you could say it could have been worth a little bit more. But the one thing I love about Railtown is you don't have to make that sell decision unless the stupid squeeze comes. But in reality, Railtown might be a stock you don't have to make a sell decision. And the hardest darn decision in the market is selling. It is the most difficult decision. When your emotions are running, Railtown might simply be a stock to hold and somebody buys them out. The other thing, Steve, I think now I'm making an assumption that other people probably don't make. But I try to buttress my thoughts by showing you or reading to you articles or videos. And hopefully, once Railtown does manage to close this transaction, which I think the tape is telling you it's very near, I could be wrong. I believe Canada is moving the stock, not we. But I believe that once the deal is consummated and is final, I think the stock's going to leap up the valuation curve. Others think it could take a lot longer. They think that the finalization could take longer than I'm anticipating, and that's true. That's the weakness. It might be next week. It might be 3 weeks from now, and in that time, these other stocks go up, and you could have bought more. I don't know how you know that in advance. So it's placing the bet the best way you can. But Steve, if I'm correct and they make that announcement of the final agreement, and this is based on the press release of February 11th, if they do that, my opinion is it's going to be a very quick move. It could take longer. But if I'm correct also that it's 10x, that means alternative stocks have to do 10x, and you can do the calculation, and you wonder how believable it is. It's possible. It's possible. I'll miss out on that, but I'm just happy. I'm at peace with it because I don't have a huge position, particularly like yours. I just have but I'm at peace with it because my goal's everything collapsed, but my goal is to make this little bit significant, and then there'll be other opportunities. It might be just as simple as, buying a little bit of silver on the margin, using PSLV or something. And then waiting for, I don't know, Apple to buy Railtown. But the thing about Railtown is, as it goes up, I could be on a vacation and not look at my account, and I don't have, ignoring the potential for squeeze. I don't have to do anything with Railtown. If it goes up, it's going to stay up. These other stocks, if they run up, you got to make a decision. It's very hard. And if they collapse, you didn't get the benefit. So anyway, I guess I would summarize that point I'm making, that if these other stocks were to start ascending a steady pace as a prelude to a squeeze, I personally wouldn't wait for the squeeze. The squeeze could still be weeks, months away. Yes, I might pick the right time to sell before Railtown goes, but I'm not going to wait for the squeeze. That's me. You can. In these other stocks, I want to be in the real thing. I'm not saying the others. Look, when you're putting your money up, are you an investor? Are you a day trader? Are you something in between? Are you a gambler? Are you looking for that one ticket to solve problems? I think most of those answers lead to a strong or a total position in Railtown is the best way to go. And it's tough to it's the fear of, oh, I'm missing out. Oh, I better get in. Oh, and you got to block that all out. You got to block that all out. And that's tough. I know. It's tough. But look at, Steve, how well you did with most of your buying. It's incredible. It's incredible. Well, you'll have, I don't know, I can't remember if it's in a pension account, but if it's not, you'll have a tax loss and you'll get most of that back. But you're going to forget about it in the future. My premise to all of you is that Railtown can create a significant account for you. I think it can make back your losses in MMTLP and Torchlight, and depending on how much you have, that's the problem. And I think now's the time to do it. I probably don't have any of those charts anymore. I don't. But it's the jump up the value creation curve that I think is imminent. And I just showed you that I'm wrong for 5 weeks. But I don't think that means that it's getting less urgent. I think that means it's getting more urgent. Did I say how proud I am of you? 8 million shares, 5.9%. Railtown's now 65 cents at 3 o'clock. It is 740,000 shares. And weird numbers. They're trying to show you that there's a lot of selling, unless it's some kind of ARB they're doing. But I think they're just trying to show you Oh my gosh, someone wants to sell 34,500 shares at 65.85. Why not just, and now 32,000 at 65.86. Now 34.5 at 65.85. Now 32,000 at 65.86. They want you to think there's suddenly someone being scared out because they read Tony, make sure you have no dinero's latest efforts to help you because you can't read balance sheets the way he can, and you're unable to find the. Let me show you something. Hey, Steve, you're such a great coach. Yeah, I can probably do one sit up. Your health is most important. One thing is nothing better than how to take care of. All right, Ted. Nag, nag, nag. Nag, nag, nag. Why didn't I think of that? All right, I'm going to take this. Oh no, I got to cancel. Cancel. Survey says I got to take some of this down. All right, I'm going to take this down, delete, 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 this down, delete. Pete and delete met on a bridge. Pete jumped off. Who was left? Delete. All right, let me see if I find this. This is more stuff that I want to deal with. But I'll jump in and do it quickly. I want to prove as much as I can to you of where my thoughts come from. It's not ad hominem. Doesn't mean I'm right. This is a stock I actually liked the idea of, and I always remember it because, all right, I'm not going to get everything. I'll delete some. If I feel like I got to tell you the rest of it, I may just, my point might be made without showing you the rest of the files. But I always remember it like it's that basketball team, UNLV or something. But this, I liked the story conceptually. I'm going to just take your comment down, Ted, so I can show it. Show this. Here's the chart of CNLV. That's a company you might remember called Clean Vision. And I really liked the story. I might have bought some actually for myself, but I never focused on it really. But you see that time frame of about December 23rd, and you see the couple of years before and afterward. But that time frame was when they destroyed GTI and Finger. Oh my gosh, you're blaming a dead man. No, I'm not. My contention to you is these guys come in where the money is, where the money's been created, where the money's hot. Anyway, the stock ran up and then it collapsed and there was a brief run up. The second brief run up might be when they needed the stock up so they could sell their compensation shares and warrants. There might have been a restriction. But look at where it is. Oddly, if I were looking at this chart as a potential, nibble, I would say that if it holds here, that trend line might be support right at the end. But I'm not recommending this now. Let me show you. And here's the problem. I didn't download everything that I got off of Vector. But this is, I got to put my glasses on. I got to put my glasses on. This is consultative expense. For the years ended December 31, 23, and 22, we had consulting expenses of $2 million and $2.4 million respectively. $2 million a year. It's pretty, that's a red flag to me. The net loss for those years, $12 million. And then the other year, I guess, was $6 million. But I can see one place to cut costs, get rid of the consultants. But there's a reason. The consultants drive the price up so that the financial, I'll show you if it's here. I didn't get everything downloaded. Here's the going concern. Oh my gosh, Tony, make sure you don't have as much dinero as he has dinero. Would want me to point this out, if you take they all have the going concern. But I think it's legitimate here when you see the deficits. But then here's an example of some of the convertible notes. They need the stock to go up with the money. These guys cleave to, hove to, are drawn to when a group of idiot retail people, that's how they see us, come in buying a stock and is up and they have a little bit of a profit. It's just where they go. Look at this. Promissory note to Silverback Company Capital. It's one of the, it's just a setup. It's just a pimp. Coventry Enterprises, another one. And then down here, they entered into convertible notes. And there it is, the VWAP and the 120% of closing price. That's the February convertible notes. Then look at this page. They've got April convertible notes, March convertible notes, August convertible notes. You can read the crap in each of those. And then you look here, October convertible note. And then you can look here. Oh, I already did that. You can look here at the list of these Lynn Partner type companies, Silverback, Coventry, Walleye, GS Partners. They all are in there for their score. And then you see the compensation expense. I already showed you that. And if I delete a couple of these, I may be able to show you one more thing. But I might have shown you enough. Let me see what these are. It didn't give them to me. Let's take this down, delete. Sorry about that. Delete. Okay. Delete and repeat. Delete and redelete. Stood on a bridge. Delete, jumped off. Who was left? Redelete. Delete and redelete. We're on a bridge. All right, let me see. Look at this. Look at this. Common stock. This is that same stock, CNLV. The company has entered into 3 consulting agreements, required issuance of 31,000 shares of stock per month through 23. The company has entered into a consulting agreement, requires issuance of 5,000 common per month beginning 22. The company granted 1 million shares of common stock for services, January 23. February 23, the company granted 600,000 shares of common stock for services. March 7, 23, the company granted 850,000 shares of common stock for services. July 18, the company has issued 6 million shares for services. August 21, 23, the company granted 500,000 shares. On August 29, 23, the company issued 500,000. September 15, the company issued 5 million shares of common stock for services. On November 4th, 23, the company granted 600,000 almost. On December 20, the company granted 37 bonus shares for service. And look at the stock. They got you all excited on the IR side for Clean Vision Corporation. It runs up, creating the opportunity to do those deals with those capital firms who are shorting it. They're not taking any risk. It comes down, they do it again, a la GME, AMC, any of the others, and it gives a chance for all those so-called services to liquidate their stock. And you look down here on the volume, and you can see where probably those service contracts were liquidated. A little peaks up. So who made money? Who really stuck the knife in first? Guys, it is whether or not these people who come in are part of it or not, I'll leave it to your judgment. They might just be stupid, and that's certainly a possibility. Or if they're able to justify to themselves these enormous paydays because they're so talented, then they're complicit. It's one or the other, stupid or complicit. But certainly I think doing the same thing over and over again, and for us as investors, we can't blame other people. We got to act, and there's enough evidence over the last 3 or 4 years. One, that the Wall Street game has totally changed since I sat on a desk. It's just totally different. There are no systems in place, as my erstwhile friend from American Stock Exchange said. There are no systems in place. Oh, there's systems in place. Bullshit. There are no systems in place. At least not on the criminal side, not on the shorter side, maybe on the long side. Remember that guy that Kaiser Soze? They went after him on the long side, not on the short side. He probably took $500 million out of the market, but then when he does a Martha Stewart-like thing, they go after him. Anyway, we cannot continue to be the fodder. They need us. I mean, I can show you other charts, but let's just show this one more time. They need this up in price and our volume to do those deals. And that's what they get, whether or not they realize it or not, that's what they get paid for. And what's this stock? I mean, I would argue, here's the chart. I was very, well, this is a little later. I was bullish on that wedge, and then it went sideways. But right here where I have the circle and finger, Roth Capital came in and did a deal. They chopped it. They took it from 286 down to 150, and it kept going. And that bad Leroy Brown decided to misquote me when I said that there's a possibility now that Finger could be $252 in September, October. Let me look what I wrote down. I'll show it to you to prove it. I said actually 350, but then they might have to do a deal in October with Roth Capital. I was conservative. I said 275, but I said, they'll short it down. Look how they shorted here. And I just said it's the risk. It could go down there. But I recall telling bad Leroy Brown, even if they did a deal with Roth and they shorted it downward, if the company had money and it was well used, it would take a few weeks, a couple of months, and it'd rally back up. Just like here, look, back in December, it broke down and it took 1, 2, 3 months before it rallied somewhat, gave up the ghost, so it took 4 months. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 months basically, and then it starts the rally. So, well, Williams said it's going to be 75 cents by the end of the year. God. Anyway, what I think Finger should have done, I think the Toad was doing. The Toad was priming the pump, which brought you and me into this, although I didn't participate. I called that trade. And so money comes in, people start buying calls, it goes up, up, up. And I think right up here, when it was 450, the company should have done a deal with the devil, with Roth Capital, but they didn't. And who am I to say? They know what they're doing. But this is a run up like Roaring Kitty or any of the others, and the shorts come in and hit it. And I don't think there was anybody paid for consulting, but I don't have another chart here to show you. It's the same concept. They do company after company. What's this one? That's platinum gold. Sorry. I think I took down all my charts. This is my favorite. That's my favorite. Nope, that's my favorite. That's my favorite. Best boy in the whole world. The best boy in the whole world. All right, I got a question about GTI. So I still have in my Roth and cash account. I said I would sell. Are you still on the hook for that? I don't know where you're holding your position. When I called into Morgan Stanley, I had already filled out the paperwork, and when I filled out the paperwork, the company was in compliance. But already, I don't know if you can get out of this. It's zero bid, hard to borrow, it says. But Morgan Stanley said, I can't sell my stock. You can transfer it out. And I said, why not? Because the company's a non-reporting over the counter. You don't qualify for our Rule 144. So it's always a way to help the criminals. Always a way to help the criminals. There's no fairness. But anyway, so I can't sell my shares. Look, here's the dream of GTII. The dream is that they're going to bring in this, I suppose, AI-based application that is going to take the world by a storm, and people are going to sign up a monthly subscription, and they already have subscribers, and the CEO I mean, I've never met him, but it sounds like he's got his heart in the right place. And so the idea is he'd come in and bring that technology revenue into GTI. And then the whales who have paid for the attorneys and the receiver and other costs, I guess, would just donate that time. They won't ask for their money back in shares. I don't know. And then this guy comes in, the company is going to have some pending obligations. Somebody has to take care of that. I guess the whales will give that for free, or it'll come out of revenue. And then if they need money to establish the company and maybe raise enough money for 18 months, 2 years, so they can hit their targets, they can aggressively market, they can grow the company, I guess the whales are going to give that for free, that money for free. And then GTII will, absorb the 15, 20% of the cap base that the receiver will own. Maybe he'll share that with the attorneys involved. And then I guess the further thought is that the CEO that's coming in with the technology is going to only take a very small, a much smaller part of GTII than a normal reverse split, so that the whales and you can own a lot of stock, and if it squeezes, you're going to make a lot of money, or you just hang on to it and you'll make your money back. I find that whole theory implausible. I find it really implausible. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen. I think it's much more likely that the technology comes in, every bit of it. What was that scene when Eve Green sits down? I'm the money, every bit of it. I think it's much more likely when the technology company comes in, they demand at least 85%. It could be 90%. That leaves us, who still own GTII, with 10% of the NewCo, although it's been reduced by roughly 15 to 20% by the receiver's reward. So that, let's call it 20%, it's because of my arithmetic. So we're down to 8% of NewCo from 100%, from 80%. We're down to 8% of NewCo. And then I think the whales are actually going to convert or demand their cash back, or there will be a financing that reimburses expenses, some form of liquefying both the company and the whales' advancement. And I think the whales are going to ask for a chunk of the company. The question is, does it come out? You've got let's say 90%, 8%, and 2% to the receiver. So 90% to the technology, 8% to us, and 2% to the receiver. That's the status. But then they've got to raise money. I would argue what the whales will try to accomplish is say, let's raise money for the whole company. And let's say they sell, I don't know, to raise money, they have to sell 30% of the company for, I'm making it up, $10 million, whatever it is. So they sell, so new money, new shares are issued. So that new money, including the whales, comes in for 30% of the company. So the new capitalization is 30% new money, 1.2% to the receiver. We would go from 8% to, 8% to, I guess, just under 5%, 4.8%. We'd be down to 4.8%. And then the technology would be down to 60%. And that's why they would, I think, require so much to start, so that after the equity's raised, the money's raised, they would still be firmly in control. And then you got to fit in compensation, employees, bonuses for the CEO, CFO. That's the time to take care of it, shares. So I would imagine that if everything worked well, we as a group would end up out of the gate after all that's done with maybe 4% of the NewCo, down from 100% now, although that's going to be haircut by the receiver getting 20%. So we'd go from 80% down to 4%. And of course, there's some overlap in there. I mean, the whales are in that number and they'll be in the new number. So if we're at 4% and the financing isn't toxic, which I assume they'll do everything they can to make sure it's not. But, the risk is if the company stumbles or something happens, those criminals are out there to keep the pressure on. But anyway, if the company goes to $1 billion in valuation, we have 4%. That's 40 million. You divide it by 100 million shares. I guess it's a nice number. I guess there's a reason. But my opinion, Steve, is we will always have a chance to make that choice later, because when they go to raise money, they're going to come not only to the whales, they'll come to us. They need us. The company will need a certain number of shareholders. And just as ever, these guys out of New York and elsewhere, they don't risk money. They don't risk money. It's always other people's money. They risk your money. So I don't see an urgency to GTII, but other people disagree. People are paying 20 cents to buy the stock. And, I have my way of looking at it. You might have a different way of looking at it. Ultimately, you pay your money, you take your chances. But these are the stocks that if I were sitting at my old office, now Morgan Stanley, I would be called in politely at first. But if I got stubborn, they'd probably say, "Hey, next time, I don't care how much you're producing for us, we just can't have you recommending." These are all the buyers on Wall Street, increasingly women, but young men too, who've never really learned the markets. It's just about gathering assets. Oh, I only manage 20 accounts, and I have a minimum of 10 million in an account. Well, that's great in a bull market. And we'll just put it in this ETF and in this fund. Let's give some to that manager and collect the fees. if someone has 100 million under management, they can collect up to 3%. But let's say they're not greedy. Well, some are. Let's say they only collect 2% of that. That's 200,000 a year in gross. They probably get 55% of it. Call it half because it's easy arithmetic. That's 100 grand. Oh, it's probably 55. It's probably 10 grand a month they're making for doing nothing. They show up and do nothing. The managers and the traders make money, and then that's a source of stock that the criminals can play these reindeers games. It's all gonna end in tears. And the only way you're going to be prepared for it, in my judgment, I love silver. You'll notice you guys are mad that I'm not talking about this. You're putting out there to cause dissension. Oh, Williams against that or that. But you know what? I should be mad at myself. I'm not talking about silver. The reason is I want you to know with 100% clarity that my focus is only on Railtown right now. And I guess I'll have to keep going. If they don't announce something tomorrow, which frankly I don't see any indication that they are in the stock price now. I mean, it's nice volume, 762, but I don't see any mad scramble at the close. So my guess is they don't announce anything tomorrow, and that means next week. If I were running the company, I wouldn't put out good news. I would consider closing that transaction to be good news, particularly in the summertime. I wouldn't put good news out on Thursday or Friday because everyone's on the way to the beach. The beaches are on the way to the beaches, and the men are on the way to the golf courses, and so I would think if we don't hear something tomorrow, I will have tomorrow, Thursday, Friday to talk to you about Railtown. And I'm not going to talk about anything else because I want you to own Railtown. And if we're lucky, maybe Monday or Tuesday, they finally close that deal. I could be wrong about my timing. It's just my experience over the years. And then you're not buying Railtown at 65 cents. According to me, very quickly, it goes to $6.50, $7. Others say, oh, you don't know that. It could take a long time, and maybe the deal takes longer. And that's true. I don't know. But I think the risk of not being in it now that 5 months have gone by, what are the lawyers doing? What are the principals doing? Are they just procrastinating? Playing Pac-Man or whatever the game is now? I don't think so. I think they've been working really hard. So I think every day that goes by comes closer to that time, you're not going to be able to buy Railtown at under 70 cents. And if they ever announce that they finalize that deal, I don't think you're going to be able to buy Railtown under $1.50. But I'm aggressive in my targets. I've always been lucky in the draw. What about that last one? You didn't talk about him. I knew you were there. All right, 337. Let's see whatever's then. Oh. Wow, Anson and GNS got served subpoenas. Wow. Good. Good. I don't think it's going to make any difference. They'll just settle. But that's great. That's great. I love it. That's progress. Every time. The Smart Neighbor. I've never watched that. So now what? The first time I didn't get a notice. Hey, Phil, thank you for your support. Hey, John Croissant. I forgot to give you my amount. Wow. Northwest. Northwest comes in for the good guys. He signs up to be with the good guys, 12,000. I sold my wife's last week. Wow, 12 cents. Good for you. Look, yeah, I think I didn't finish that thought. I think we'll be given a chance to get in on the mezzanine level of whatever scheme they have going. And then we'll see a prospectus or at least an offering document. And we'll have some data and some knowledge. And usually offering documents and prospectuses, these are moments in time where you have the best information you can have, and everybody has the same information. And I'd much rather make commitments to GTII then than now. Look, Railtown is a very special stock. It's a very special opportunity. A year ago, unsolicited, as far as I know, Railtown came out in a research report by Research Capital, and they initiated July 2nd, 2024, they initiated a speculative buy at $2. And the highlights, you want the lowlights? No, I'm going to hit the highlights. Railtown AI is advanced AI for efficient software development. I showed you this. Software development. I showed you this. This is the guy we were just talking about, Mark Andreessen. In short, software is eating the world. Yeah. And then this guy comes along. Software eating the world, pshaw. AI is going to eat software. Jensen Huang. Why do all Chinese names sound like, in English anyway, sound like male accoutrement? So Railtown AI is pioneering a powerful tool to transform and enhance software development. We believe the company's first mover advantage and the founder's history of success positions the company well to capture a meaningful share. Then they go down for only 3%. I think meaningful, you got to be talking 10, 20%. We initiate speculative buy with a target of US dollars 2. Target price of US $2 per share. Railtown AI poised for growth in the expanding software developer market. Railtown AI is developing, I guess it's completed now, of course, a robust tool to revolutionize software development by boosting a bunch of good things. And it operates, it does a lot of things people want. I love the future that you don't even have to have code to create your internal software. But they use an addressable market here of 3 billion for last year, 3 billion. And they say 3% of 3 billion. Look, I just read to you from and they're global, by the way, from the United Nations, that they currently in 2023, the global AI market is 189 billion. But they project in a decade from then, 2033, the global AI market 4.8 trillion. But if you're willing to take, might be in my other notebook. If you're willing to take, I think it is. It's too bad. If you're willing to take Corey Brandolini's call, I mean, here's enterprise software in 25 is $59 billion market. In the next years, 3 years or something, AI, it could grow to a $3 trillion market. I forget who said that. I told you who it was, but I forgot who it was. All right, let me look up what Corey Brandolini said. In a video from 1 year ago, not now. He talked about GitHub. He said, I think all I wrote down is bundled in with apps in GitHub. I don't know if he was predicting that he could get a conductor in there, but he certainly was talking about how they have a lot of software tools inside of the apps called GitHub, which is Microsoft. I wish I'd written it down better. Anyway, he said it's battle tested. 2 of our first deals landed on Microsoft. They do generative AI Copilot. I'm reading my notes, of course. He said there's a 42% productivity loss in software development, and this is what this addresses. They address root cause, according to him, root cause analysis. That's a Copilot. They have release notes Copilot and a Scrum Master, whatever that is, Copilot. They launched a targeted language model. They've also launched a Copilot that eliminates bugs in minutes. And it says granddaddy products or something like that, knowledge. Anyway, he said it's a gigantic market. This is Corey Brandolini. He said $11 billion was spent on development tools. And he said it's $30 billion in added cost with AI, but he said that cost pays for itself. So that's $30 billion. And that's where he mentioned GitHub again. GitHub AI, the guy there, I forget the guy's name, said that the gross GDP worldwide could be increased by AI by 1.5 trillion. So if we take 300 billion as his projected cost of AI, and we say that Railtown, being first mover with the bestest of the best, and Railtown, let's say that the deal gets done, and Railtown absorbs 160, well, it's a network. Let's say they absorb 50 of those hotshot companies, and they sell conductor across the whole swath. And they're doing their other marketing, and they're working with Microsoft and NVIDIA and AMD and Mila, and it's they're all their partners now. He's saying it's a $300 billion added AI cost. Was it billion or million? Let me look. For 2006, 300 billion. 309. Let's just use 300 billion. Well, remember, they just have to be able to say what they project their revenue is to get the multiples. And that's the other thing. The multiples have expanded. I showed you this multiple that I paid for. The average, looking backwards, is 25x from 90 deals. But now multiples are reportedly, and I believe it, for growing, confirmed quality products, early stage. The multiples are 100 to 150x of revenue. But let's say the market's 300 billion, and they say a meaningful capture. I really want to say they get a third of the market. But let's say they get 20% of the market. 20% of the market. So that means, no, let's not say that. Let's say they get 5% of the market. All right. Well, why don't we use their number? 3% of the market. I think it's just so low. They get 3% of the market. And this, remember, this is next year after they've had months to build their clientele. Let's just say it's 3% times 300 billion. I just think that's so low, laughably low, 3%. If it's such a great product, why stop there? So they will have, darn it, I got to use a different calculator. All right, so 300 million times 0.03, so small. So they'll have a market value. They'll have a share of market of $9 billion. $9 billion? All right, let's do some chopping. Let's do some chopping. Let's take 10% of that. Let's be really, let's be conservative to the max. Here, according to Corey Brandolini's video last year, there's going to be a $300 billion add to company budgets cost for AI. And then let's say they get 3% of that. That's from this research report. That gives $9 billion revenue. Let's take 10% of that, just because it's so preposterous to we who are skeptical. So that's 900 million in revenue. That's still too high. Let's take 10% of that. That gives 90 million in revenue. So I'm saying in 2026, The big AI market is that software development is, according to Corey Brandolini's video, is 300 billion. I'm only taking market penetration of 3%. That gives 9 billion in revenue, which makes me laugh. So I'm taking 10% of that. That gives 900 million in revenue, which also makes me laugh. So I'm taking 10% of that. I think this number appears legit. I think the 3% is legit. So I hope I don't have, for your satisfaction, I don't have to take another 10% off. I'm going to stick with 90 million in revenue projected next year, coming across the platforms of Conductor, Langtrax, Railtrax, Shredder, that new thing they made for the trading desk, and the increased sales across 160 companies with their clients, and assuming they roll up the best part of 400 million in revenue, I'm going to use and probably split it 50-50 to not issue a lot of shares. I'm going to use 90 million as revenue next year, 2026. 90 million for Railtown. And then I'm going to calculate it using the research report, using the average of the last 6 years, using, for the heck of it, a mid number, using the range that apparently they're paying on Wall Street now. So I got to take that down by 10% to 10%. $90 million at 12 times revenue, which is the trailing multiple at 12 times revenue. At 25 times revenue, which is the average, that's 2.25 billion. At 50 times revenue, which is less than the going rate, but just to see what it is, that's 4.5 billion. And if they go out at the big multiples, $9 billion and maybe 13.5 billion. Now this is an estimate, which you just saw me make, for 2026 revenue. So my estimate for 2026 revenue, 90 million. You saw how I came down. I chopped. So how legitimate is that estimate? Well, we'll find out. But the trailing multiple for 6 years, 12x. That gives it $1 billion, the company, $1 billion valuation. 25, sorry, that's not the trailing. 12x comes from that research report from a year ago. I think it's very conservative. 25x comes from the study I just showed you. That's the average. That's 2.2 billion. 50x was the highest multiple. That's 4.5 billion. And 100 times is the low end of the range. I understand that's being paid for AI companies now. 150 is the high end of the range. So that's 9 billion and 13.5 billion. Let's take the low out and let's take the high out. And let's average them. Which is to find the median. Divide it by 3. So I'm going to give you my target for 2026 enterprise value. Totally made up numbers, but I think it's a reasonable projection. Exit, I'll say exit 26. Give myself some time, 18 months. I think it's a $5 billion valuation. And you're going to say, you're crazy. I just showed you. I started with the market. I used 3% penetration. I chopped. And then I used the various multiples, and I got the median of that. So let's say it's 18 months from now. Let's divide it by this. We'll use this research report's number. Well, right now there's 140 million shares outstanding. Let's assume, based on that research report, that there's 170 million shares outstanding by the time this calculation is relevant. That gives me a target for the company of $30 a share, 30.88. And if you have to wait 18 months, are you willing to wait 18 months? 30.88. This is a little lower than my other methodologies I've used. I've come up with higher numbers, but I'm glad it's lower. And so then if you're skeptical, that's, let's say, in 18 months. So what would the value be if the deal gets announced and institutions start buying in? You have to present value it. Personally, I could see it going that high, but let's present value it. Let's take a third of that. So we'll take 2/3 off. We'll take a third of that. We'll multiply it by 0.333. That gives $10.28. And I think that's a good number, 10.58, but you want me to be more conservative on that. Let's take half of that one. And that gives me my grand total target for when the stock comes out of this quiet period. Of $5.14. You're not impressed? I'm impressed. You're paying 30 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents. And out of the gate, I think the starting point is $5, and in 18 months it could be $30. That doesn't impress you? And this revenue, 90 million projected next year, It could be higher. You just saw. So Railtown's a special uh, case, and I think it's something that can get us out of this morass. All right, it closed at 64 cents, just to show you that I'm wrong and they're right. It closed down a penny. Let's go see what Steve's biggest fear is. GBUX closed at 186. Finger closed at 189. I guess it's going to be a race. ZJYL closed flat, 64 cents. GTI is here at 15 cents. And I don't know, what else do you want to hear? Freebird? That's enough to hear, huh? Let's see how much volume was. 800 million, that's great. So it looks like, if I had to guess, yeah, I haven't looked at it lately, Middle Ground. I will answer. I haven't looked at it lately. I've been managing my stress, which is showing up in very painful feet, bloated and unable to really walk. I just have felt under a lot of stress the last several weeks. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. In an acquisition, would we rather pay cash to acquire or issue shares? I think if you're talking about Railtown buying somebody, they would, early on, they're gonna issue shares early on. I don't know how many, because you can make an acquisition based on a revenue split. So it doesn't require that many shares being issued. You could use a pass-through vehicle somehow. I'm excited to see how they do it. But I think early on, they're not going to resort to debt. But we'll find out. There's plenty of revenue in the AI Partners group, so maybe they'll use debt. But they don't want to create any risk of losing assets early on. So I would imagine if they need to, it would lean towards issuing shares. If we're acquired, remember that UN report I just read to you? Those three big companies each are $3 trillion. So when I give you a valuation, let's say of $5 billion at $30, maybe in an acquisition, the company goes for 40 billion. Well, 40 billion as a percentage of 3 trillion is barely noticeable, particularly if they issue stock. So if the company did trade at 40 billion, 8 times 3088, that's $247 a share. And that's possible. But that's tomorrow. That's not anything now. But that's the special nature of Railtown. And I know in Steve's case, it's a little scary. It looks like GBUX is going to have some very positive attention toward it. But if this is a buy it right, never flight kind of stock, and you'd only have to make one decision, and let's say Apple, because Apple's behind on AI, I'm not sure Apple would be a natural buyer though, because they don't have, I don't think they have a lot of software developers as clients. I don't know, but maybe Elon Musk, who's trying to create this massive data processing that's going to put us into the future in one step, or maybe I mean, obviously, Microsoft and NVIDIA or AMD, who already are partners, but maybe Intel, who wants to jumpstart their participation, maybe the Taiwanese company, um, maybe a consortium of them. But I think a $250 buyout price, which sounds absurd right now. And that's why I'm telling you, it's down the road if that happens. It's not anytime soon. It's probably 2 years, 3 years away. But I could see that kind of target potential without being that crazy. Uh, you know, Railtown doesn't have a whole lot of cost, so I imagine the margins are quite high and the product's in demand and the revenue is going to grow. This I based on 3% revenue and of the overall market, and I chop, chop, chop. I mean, imagine if they get to 10% of the market. I think there's so much upside in Railtown that it truly is a special investment, and it's worth the plunge and it's worth the commitment while the stock is, to my eyes, inexpensive. And I don't want people to see it as hot money that they can go chase these other deals who historically and almost always, certainly in all the ones we've ever participated in, the only people that benefit are the Jeff Eastons, his clients, one of them, he says it's one of my four, and the IR types, the consultative types, and optimistic, opportunistic. Am I losing my brain? Short selling, day traders, and of course the prime brokers, the stock loan desks, and then through all of them, Adina Friedman gets to live the lush life, and Chuck E. Cheese Cromwell lives the high life. I guarantee you, he summers in the Hamptons. And then Robert Cook, in his ill-fitting suits, I don't know if he really can enjoy life, but in his own way he does. And then the SEC chairmans come and go. They circle out to Goldman Sachs and Citadel and law firms and Treasury Secretary. It's a good gig. And it's all done on your catalysm. You are the catalysts. Soon Finger and RLAIF. I don't know how to call it. LAIF? RLAIF? RLAIF? Relief. The Railtown Relief Squad will be the same price. Yeah, I don't know that I want to join. That's not what I said about Finger Motion, that it was going in a different direction. What I said, that the next 6 months will be treacherous, I think the word I said. Because, and I was going to draw it out. I'm not going to draw it out. But basically, I've explained a few times, I wish that the board at Finger Motion had been willing to do a deal with the devil. Have you ever danced by the pale blue moon? Have you ever danced with the devil by the pale blue moon? I wish they had raised money, Finger, when the stock was $3, $4 with Roth Capital and with the Toad. I don't know, maybe 25, $30 million. Issue 10 million shares. The boo birds would say, "Oh, it's dilutive," but you know what? They'd have 30 grand in the bank, and it would mean that their C2 contract they could speed up and turn it into an automatic revenue machine every quarter or so, and then you'd have cycle one coming in September, cycle two coming in January, cycle three coming in May, cycle four coming in I don't know, July, and that roll of revenue would just transform the company, but they didn't do that. And I don't know how they do their accounting. I assume that the modest but very safe, mostly safe. There was a space in 2 months they didn't do any top up business, but I think it's pretty safe. I think that pays most of the overhead, but they have costs to fund their portion, which I don't think is large, of the science to develop the data into insurance. I think the ongoing development of the big data, maybe call it sapientus. There's overhead there. They got to pay for that. I think the C2 contract requires overhead and upfront money. And the lifestyle app, I really don't care about, but I'm sure it costs money to maintain. And the enhancements to messaging and top up, I think there's some money involved there, but that's probably all blended in with a profit. But Finger Motion doesn't make money. I think we're about to find out tonight. Let's look. Let's look if Finger announced any earnings. Let's see. No, not yet. Could be tonight, I guess, or it could be tomorrow. Anyway, Finger isn't really profitable, but it's close. I mean, I think it's a push, but I don't know the accounting. I'm not an accountant. But let me just tell you this. If Finger Motion in this exclusive contract has to go in and make a bid on a new tender for, I don't know, the Coast Guard or for the I don't know. And by the way, China is in. I think China's in a leadership change right now. I'm not sure they're paying all their bills. I think Xi is going to be replaced, which might be good for Finger, by the way, because whoever's coming in is going to want to be tough, and maybe they're going to spend on the C2 contract. It'll be for Army vehicles and Army Jeeps and guards. Who knows? But anyway, if they have to bid on it in September, October, they're going to have to raise more money. And that's why I think the next 6 months are crucial for Finger Motion. If they are able to ramp up the C2 contract, if a big data deal comes through like, for example, insurance, they could start to look forward to a good year in their 2027. That'll be next year. But they're going to have to raise money. And my experience with whales, these whales might be different, is that if they put up a lot of money, if they are the source of the money, they'll want a discount. And if the stock's at $2, $2.50, look at the last time. It got, well, I don't know if they would demand that much of a haircut. But if Finger has to turn to Roth Capital, and Roth Capital is not an investment bank, they're just a front for the toad, in essence, or part of Roth Capital anyway. And last time Finger was at 286, they did the deal at 150. So imagine if Finger's at 250, they need to do a deal through Roth Capital. Maybe 150, maybe 175. But remember, from 150, they shorted it down because the toad was trying to make money. I assume it's the toad. So we could go through that. It'd be temporary, just like it was last time. But it could take weeks, could take a couple of months. But that gets translated by bad Leroy Brown. Hey, tattletale teacher, William says the stock's going to go to 75 cents by the end of the year. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Ward Richardson. Let's see what Ward Richardson says. Starting to like his comments. I'm good with those numbers. Great job. Keep up the great work you are doing here. Thank you, Ward Richardson. You'd be amazed how much I like what I feel like true support. I like that because I sit here feeling like, feeling a bit, well, under attack. But that's great, Ward. That's very nice. As you can tell, I started high, chop, 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 and it's still, what's the word? Squishy, because you can't know for sure. We don't know enough data. We don't know enough information. So, but 18 months out, that gives me a little leeway. And the other thing is, when they finally announce this deal, and I think the tape's telling you they're going to, I'll be looking for that. I'll be so excited about that it finally gets done. But the next thing I'll be looking for is any kind. I'll be starved for information on revenue and revenue projections and revenue growth and all of those things. So, and I'd love. It's been suggested to me that I might be able to get the CEO on my call here, and that's because of you all. That's because of you all. It's not because of me. It's because you collectively own something like 8 million shares. That's why. You have the power. You have the power. Now let's stick together, because that power will give you, I don't think it'll ever give us inside information. No, nobody gets that. But it'll give us detailed information so we can be comfortable with our position. And I think you're going to find Corey, and maybe other people will be on. Corey will be really compelling in his story. And I'll be good with my interview if it happens. I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll let him talk. But it's very exciting. I really appreciate it, Ward. I mean that. it means a lot to me that you said something positive. And thank you. Thank you. Can I sing Unforgettable? No, I'm not that very good on that. I used to sit when I was a little boy. We had a record player, Philips, which came from Malaysia, but I'm sure it came out of Europe originally. But you take an album, you know what an album is? It was Capitol. And I think it was my dad's record. It might have been my mother's, but I think it was my dad's record. And I think it was called Unforgettable, but it might have been his hits or something. But I used to sit there, I'd have my chin on my knee, and I would listen to Nat King Cole. I loved him. I love his voice. But Unforgettable wasn't always one of my favorites. I liked Mona Lisa, Mona Lisa. Some men call you. 60 to 67.5 cents, 800,000 shares. Can you put your fedora and crew in the chat? No, I'm not going to do that. You need to walk more for swollen legs. Move the lymphs. Probably not. I'm not walking as much, but I can't walk. I don't know how to express it to you. I didn't shave today because I couldn't really stand up. It's more uncomfortable now than it's painful, but the last 2 weeks I can't really walk. I kind of walk like an old man, which I guess I am. But it'll come back. And then I do walk. The last few weeks I've been trying to walk down to the Capitol, down to the mall, up to the Washington. What do we call it? The shrine. Walk up to the shrine. Walk back to the good part of town. I try to walk, but you're right. I used to, particularly before Lucky got very restricted in his walking, I would walk 5 to 8 miles a day at the peak, maybe 10 miles with him when he was all full of energy. But I certainly did 2 to 5 miles a day. I don't do that anymore. So you're right about that. All right, guys, it is 4:24. Unless you have a question, I think I'm going to sign off and call that a day. Call that a day. So thank you, everybody. I'll be here tomorrow. It looks like you're going to have another day to buy it under 70 cents because of the way it closed. But you never know. It might be the last chance to buy it under 70 cents. And it might be the last chance before the news announcement that they close the deal. I don't know. My target once they close the deal is $1.25. Be the last chance you can buy below $1.25. But again, congratulations, 8.3 million shares, 5.9%, and I'll update that, but that's terrific. So I wish everyone the best. Peace to each of you. Peace around the world, particularly where children are in war zones or are starving or are mistreated or are sex trafficked. Let's pray for the children in the world. They deserve a childhood. Every child deserves a childhood without bringing the horror of sexual exploitation or starvation or want. So let's pray for the children. Anyway, peace, everybody. Peace, everybody.